Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. I feel like it's Friday, but it's Thursday. Happy Thursday, and welcome to the weekly Conservative Ladies of America live stream. I'm Julie Barrett. I'm the founder of Conservative Ladies of America, which started in Washington State as Conservative Ladies of Washington. And now we're all spread out all over the country, and we're spreading our wings, and we're doing federal stuff and stuff in states all over the place. So if you are joining us live, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Would love to hear from you. We have a packed agenda today. There is a lot going on. The world feels, the social media world feels really crazy right now. We're going to get into that just a little bit, but we have some big issues that I really want to dive into today. As I was looking for something on X right before I went live, I found an article that Senator Brian Lenny just had published today about the funding behind the App Store Accountability Act. The people that are pushing this policy. It's a gateway to digital ID, and he has gotten into the details on that, which was something I was going to talk about, and how we haven't really been able to figure out how the group behind the App Store Accountability Act, digital ID, their funding has really been secret. So I was kind of digging through this article he wrote. We're going to go through it together. I didn't have time. I literally got it like 2 minutes before I went live. So I haven't even had time to read it fully. So we'll do that together here in a bit. Again, if you have questions as we go through this, please feel free to drop those in the comments, whatever platform you are watching on. If you are watching on YouTube, probably goes without saying, but it does help us if you subscribe to the channel and like the video and comment and share and do all those YouTube things that you all hear on every other video. We try not to do that because I find it kind of annoying. You all know what you need to do to support us. So there's just a lot going on in social media land right now. I kind of want to touch on that before we get into we're going to talk about the Cascadia. It's not an alliance, but Washington, Canada, and Oregon have this pact treaty thing going on. We're going to get into that. And then we're going to talk about the App Store Accountability Act and another bill that's like a gateway to digital ID that was just dropped on what's today, the 30th, the 28th, by Republican Senator Josh Hawley. It's called the GUARD Act, and it applies to AI chatbots. And these bills are kind of complementary. And they're really bad, and they have nothing to do really with protecting kids and everything to do with digital ID. So those are kind of the three things that we're going to get into right now. But I do want to talk about the weird stuff that's going on the right on social media. There's a lot of, don't listen to this person. Really, there's kind of this cancel culture going on within the right. And I don't even know, to say conservatives and rhinos, because I don't even think that exists anymore. There's just like a bunch of weird factions. And I don't even know if I could call myself a conservative anymore. If you think 10 years ago when Donald Trump first came on the scene, that's when I was like, oh, well, these ideas are conservative ideas. Well, I guess then I'm a conservative. But now I think it's been hijacked by the rhinos, and the rhinos didn't like being called conservatives or didn't like being called rhinos. So now they're conservatives, and conservatives are now rhino. Anyway, I'm just America first. Let's follow the Constitution. How hard is that? Hey, Christopher, checking in from Ohio on a cold, rainy day. It is, you may like cold, rainy days. My two youngest daughters, who are twins, they love cold, rainy days. They love Western Washington weather. But here in Florida, it's cool in the mid 70s. It's dropped for the lowest in quite a while. So I'm actually wearing jeans for the first time in probably a year today. So we've got all the windows and doors open because it is kind of that fresh air thing going on. So I'm sure, like, I don't want to get in totally to the like Israel, pro-Israel, anti-Israel, anti-Semite thing, but there's this, if you aren't fully pro-Israel, you're an anti-Semite. There's no room for people who question the Israeli government. If you question the Israeli government, why do you hate Jews? And it's really getting to the point for me. I tried to ignore it. I tried not to comment on things. I tried not to post about it. Um, but it's really getting to the point where it is over the top. It is obnoxious. And look, I'm America first. I love America. I criticize the American government every single day. It doesn't mean I don't love Americans. And I think that we have a right to criticize any government that we want to without being called a racist or an anti-Semite or any of these things. And so what I want to share a scripture with you because I feel like there is a heavy amount of deception, distraction, gaslighting of people going on. And so I just want to encourage you because you might read something and like start second guessing yourself. And so I think I have to close out of X here. Hold on. So I just want to encourage you that if you are feeling that way, if you're not a Christian, maybe this doesn't apply to you. But for me, I always pray and ask the Holy Spirit to give me discernment and give me wisdom to separate truth from the lies or even just half truths, because a lot of people on social media right now are monetized. Your social media influencers, or they're sponsored by people, or they work for organizations, and so they have to say certain things. And so please keep that in mind with people that you're listening to. They're paid to push an agenda. I don't have I don't have sponsors. I don't have anything to lose. I don't have sponsors to lose. I don't have a boss to lose. I don't have a paycheck to lose. I can say whatever I want. And there's so much freedom in being able to say what you want. But I know that it's sometimes it's hard because you've followed people for a while and you've gotten their content and you've read their content and they seem to be reliable, they seem to be trustworthy, and then you sort of start to second guess things. And so I just want to encourage you with this scripture from 2 Timothy 3:12 and 13. In fact, everyone who wants to live a godly life in Christ Jesus will be persecuted, while evildoers and imposters will go from bad to worse, deceiving and being deceived. And so that's like, we know that the way is narrow and few will go on the narrow way, and there will be a lot of deception. Are we in end times? I think we're close. I think every day we get more. Obviously, we get closer every day, and so every day there naturally there would be more deception and more evil doing. And so I just want to encourage you with this to pray and ask for wisdom and discernment, and just remember that it is in the Bible that Christians will be persecuted, and speaking truth in a world where the truth is uncomfortable or inconvenient. And there's so much corruption in government. I really had no idea until I got into this 4 years ago. I had no idea. I mean, I figured, I knew, especially with Donald Trump and, we've got to drain the swamp and all of that. I realized that. But until I actually had a front row seat to what was going on with elected officials passing public policy, until I actually saw that firsthand and upfront, I didn't realize just how corrupt it was in the government. And that is at every level, from your local level all the way, and especially in Washington, D.C. And Representative Timberchet puts it great. D.C. is not a swamp. Swamp is something God made, and it's very cool, and it has all these neat things in it. A sewer is man-made, and that's exactly what we've got in Washington, D.C., and pretty much at every level of government. So there's my 2 cents on what is going on in social media land. And you've maybe seen, I wanted to share this Friends clip with you because there's a lot of people on social media telling you not to watch something, not to listen to certain voices, certain people. And I'm a huge Friends fan. It's actually like when when we were going through a bunch of stuff a few years ago, I had a lot of anxiety and panic attacks and stuff. And I would put Friends on, and it was like comedic relief for me. And so I still watch it from time to time. Okay, every day. It helps me wind down at the end of the day. It gets my mind off of the things that are going on. But as I hear people on social media who are saying, don't listen to so-and-so, don't watch this person.
I want to see it.
What?
Clearly you don't want people to see this tape. Now, I don't want people to see this tape either, but you so badly don't want people to see it that it makes me want to see it. Do you see?
So when people are telling us, don't watch this person, don't listen to this person, I don't know about you, but it makes me want to listen to that person even more. And I think it's very healthy for us to listen to, read, just take in as much information as we can and ask for discernment to see the truth in all of these things. And so there's my encouragement to you as we've got all this crazy stuff going on in social media land. Let's dig into what's going on the West Coast. In the Pacific Northwest, there's a treaty between Canada, Washington, and now Oregon has been looped into the mix. Now, this is not new. This is something that came online in 2016. But yesterday, Bob Ferguson tweeted out that today I announced an agreement between Washington State, Oregon, and British Columbia to renew and strengthen our partnership. Together, the Cascadia region will address housing affordability, invest in clean energy, and create the conditions for long-term economic growth. Well, what does that mean? This is really interesting because there's no federal input into this, which of course is no surprise. It's Washington and Oregon, so they pretty much do everything on their own. I feel like they would love to secede from the United States, at least while we've got President Trump in office. But what does this mean? I mean, no voters have had any say in this. So the original alliance was created, like I said, in 2016, and that was just between Washington and British Columbia. And then again in 2018, they renewed their commitment. And now yesterday, Oregon has officially joined the Cascadia Alliance. And so the pact commits all three entities to coordinate on housing affordability and sustained growth, clean energy and climate goals, transportation connectivity, including high-speed rail, innovation, and AI collaboration. So basically, they are creating their mini EU and their own little territory that is separate from everything else that's going on in the United States. Now, here's something interesting. So housing is really they're using this as a Trojan horse here. In July, and so in her press release, Governor Tina Kotek described this as a way to, quote, strengthen our ability to expand housing supply and create more jobs. And so back in July, Governor Kotek signed a package of bills, House Bill 2138, House Bill 3031, House Bill 2258, and a few others. And this is all on our website, conservativeladiesofamerica.com. Click on blog and this is the first bill. But this package of bills all together, they were to loosen the zoning laws, mandate denser development, and it funneled more than $1 billion into state-directed housing programs. So these are all going to be built into a regional framework that will allow them to easily evolve cross-border housing mandates that would be tied to their climate agenda as well. So this is really bad as far as housing goes, and there will be a lot of money, I would imagine a lot more money funneled to these housing projects. So that's not a good thing. Now, the high-speed rail, this is something that's already in process in Washington State. It's been going on for a few years now. Let me pull up. It's been going on since 2016. It looks like it's supposed to be done in 2028. But if you are in Washington and you've been watching any of the projects that they have in Washington, they never complete their projects on time. So the high-speed rail project has received nearly $50 million in federal grants, $49.7 million to be exact. And Washington State has committed, I believe it's around $5 million to the high-speed rail project. So we're looking at about $55 million there. And we would expect Oregon and British Columbia to kick into that as well. So you've got that. And one of the things people who live in the Pacific Northwest know is that whole I-5 corridor is really has become, especially with the open border situation and all of these West Coast states being sanctuary states, you've got a lot of drug trafficking, probably I know sex trafficking, all kinds of crap going up and down the I-5 corridor, just to say it nicely. Then you've got the innovation and the AI, the digital layer. They're going to collaborate on data analytics, artificial intelligence, and advanced computing. Deeper partnerships between government and large technology firms on data systems that cross both state and national lines. So this isn't just an American thing. We've got Canada involved here. So what of the data from the citizens in these states is going to be going to Canada? And this is just a weird, bringing Canada into this mix is really concerning, actually. And so so this happened yesterday. And this should be a huge concern to everyone in America, not just the people that are living in Washington and Oregon. But this further compounds what we've seen with the West Coast Health Alliance, which I told you about. They created that at the beginning of September. And then just a week or two ago, they created the Governor's Public Health Alliance, which is another way. I think there are 15 governors in the Public Health Alliance that have agreed to work together on their own for healthcare stuff. And basically they've kind of formed like this separate entity besides the United States. So it's like a parallel thing. So we're seeing these Washington, Oregon continue to separate themselves from the rest of the country. And this was something that we really noticed in Washington's legislative session this year. When they started filing bills back in December of 2024, we noticed that there was kind of this pattern of, they're really setting up to create a sovereign state and what potentially secede. I don't know where that's going. But this is definitely something of concern and something to be watching. So if you are in the state of Washington, I encourage you to look into this and stay informed on this, stay on top of this. I imagine there will be some legislation coming that will be tied into this. Pre-filing starts in December, so early December. So that's coming up really pretty quickly. So just a little over a month, we're going to start seeing bills pre-filed. So our team will be watching for that. If you're not already following us, make sure that you're following us. Our Substack is actually the best way to get these breaking alerts and calls to action and bills and stuff as they come up. So I put that up on the screen there. Be sure to go there and subscribe. And we usually put out videos about bills that we're really concerned about too on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube as well. But all of this is coming up fast and it's something to watch. And I do want to give a special shout out and a thank you to Susan Dupree, I'm going to say is how you say her last name. She is at Susan_DUPRES on X. And that lady is so good at putting out really important information for citizens. So if you live in Washington State and you're on X, please go give her a follow. She puts out, for information from all over the state about maybe a county that's having a meeting about something that's really important. And she, when she posts the information, she tells you where you can go to, take action or go to the meeting or send an email. it's very useful content. And, now that I don't live in Washington anymore, and now that we're doing work beyond just Washington at a federal level and in other states, it's been really helpful to have her posting all of this important information on X. So it's at Susan_DUPRES on X. Okay, let's get into these digital ID bills. So the GUARD Act, this was just dropped on Wednesday, October 28th, by Senator Josh Hawley, who is a Republican from the state of Missouri. I usually would consider him one of the more conservative Republicans. He's very strong on pro-life issues. But the GUARD Act it's a terrible bill, and it's being pushed. Here's the biggest thing. It's being pushed as a way to protect children and parental empowerment. And it is anything but those. It is a government mandate, and it is a pathway to digital ID. So I want to give GUARD is an acronym, and I'm trying to pull up the guidelines for User Age Verification and Responsible Dialogue Act of 2025. It's not just Senator Hawley. There are a few other Republican senators and a few Democrat senators, because we love when legislation is bipartisan. It makes it so great. Usually for me, that's the biggest sign that something is really bad with legislation, whether it's in the bill sponsorship or when the bill gets passed with bipartisan support. Usually that's a very bad sign. And so this bill, what it would do, it would require age verification for anyone who wants to use an AI chatbot. So we're talking about ChatGPT or Grok, Copilot, Claude, any of these AI tools that you use to chat and research, or whatever you might use it for. Actually quite useful. Now, here's something that struck me funny as I was researching this yesterday. I remembered that Trump signed an executive order earlier this year to expand AI in K-12 education. And so I went and I looked that up because I was really concerned, how do these play together? And Trump's bill Trump's executive order wants more AI in the classroom. It directs federal agencies to integrate AI tutoring tools into K-12 schools. It funds teacher training with AI, and it prepares students for an AI-driven workforce, which I don't totally disagree with, because I think that, and my husband works in big tech, so he and I are always kind of talking about the whole AI thing. And AI is just going to expand and get bigger. And I think for lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, they're 10 years behind where things are. Technology is moving so fast, and most of the lawmakers don't understand technology and are not prepared to make policy around technology because they just don't understand it. And so these two bills that we're going to be talking about are kind of case in point. But Trump wants to basically make American students competitive in a world where AI is everywhere. And as a student, I'm a student at Liberty University, and I can tell you that and it's I'm in the online school, and all of the textbooks have AI models built into them that you can use for researching and stuff like that. It's in everything. And so students are already using it. Students are already way ahead of where the lawmakers are. But so the GUARD Act, though, if a student was using it, the teacher would be in trouble the school would be in trouble for letting the student access this, because the GUARD Act bans minors from using AI chatbots. So just from that aspect alone, let's leave out the digital ID, all the other components about it. If we're going to ban minors from using these chatbots, how are they going to be able to function in a world that uses AI? So it's really kind of crazy. So Um, so that was one of the things is we've got this conflict with the Trump executive order. Now, if your child, so to use Chat GPT, if this law passes, you will have to provide age verification data. So we're talking about government ID, biometric data, birth date, all of these things. And this isn't just for kids. Everyone's going to have to do the age verification. And so who's getting that data and how is it protected? There are really no guardrails in the legislation that really protect the data. So I want to, so what the bill actually, so the, I was going to try to upload maybe I can share my screen here. Let's try that. That would be helpful. This one. Perfect. Okay. So this little chart here explains what the bill does. And if you go to our website, conservativeladiesofamerica.com, click on blog, and you will be able to see this whole article that I wrote yesterday. There are links in it to the bill, to the press release from Senator Hawley, so you can go read that as well. But in section 3, 1 and 2, it defines AI companion as any chatbot simulating friendship, therapy, or emotional reaction. And all of them do that. If they do whatever you want them to. So that means Chat GPT, Claude, Grok, Meta AI, Snapchat's My AI. And really, I think instead of regulating what the apps can do or putting like parental controls or age controls within these apps, within these programs, mandating people to provide age verification is really a bad deal. And I think it's really missing the mark. And I think I'd like to give them the benefit of the doubt and say they don't really understand what they're doing. They're good intention, but they don't really understand what they're doing. It's hard for me to do that if they're talking to people in tech. And you don't have to be like very high. You don't have to be like the, person at the top of the tech chain. You don't have to be Mark Zuckerberg to be able to tell someone this stuff. And so they're really missing the mark. So Section 5 requires verified accounts via government ID or commercially reasonable method. So again, commercially reasonable leaves the door pretty wide open. And then Section 4 has criminal penalties for AI that solicits sexual content or promotes self-harm with up to 100,000 per violation. Now, sort of backtrack for a second, like, why are we not encouraging parents and actually giving parents real tools to parent their children on these chatbots, right? And a lot of systems do have, whether it's an iPad or a Chromebook or your laptop, there are a lot of parental controls built in. Our children all got to a certain age and they were able to, like our boys especially, were able to hack and get around it. But most of them have those kinds of things. Sorry. Why are we not doing more of that is my question. So this GUARD Act is a parallel to the App Store Accountability Act, which I did a video. I talked about it in my live stream last week, and I've done a separate video on it. They're almost identical. They just attack a different piece. Like the GUARD Act attacks the AI chatbot piece, and the App Store Accountability Act is specific to providing age verification data to download an app on any device that you're on. So we're talking like the Apple App Store or Google Play. And it's interesting to me how many, this is the biggest piece of this that I'm struggling with, is there are so many groups on the right, organizations on the right, that are pushing these bills. Now, the GUARD Act just came out a couple days ago, so I'm not seeing a whole lot of advocacy around that one yet, but I'm waiting for it. I don't see that. I searched up to see if it was a model policy being pushed by a specific organization, and I was unable to find that. However, the App Store Accountability Act is being pushed by an organization called the Digital Childhood Alliance. And the Digital Childhood Alliance, they came online in January of 2025. So they're brand new. And right out of the gate is this App Store Accountability Act policy. That's what they're pushing. And they have aligned with organizations like the Heritage Foundation, American Policy Institute, Family Policy Institute, one of those, Moms for Liberty, many parent advocacy groups. Moms for Liberty obviously is the biggest, and they have had Moms for Liberty moms throughout the country writing op-eds and encouraging their legislators to support the App Store Accountability Act at a state level, because they wanted to push out the state bill as well as the federal bill. So with the App Store Accountability Act, you've got it in the US House and the Senate. In the House, it is sponsored by two Republicans, Representative John James of Michigan and Representative Gus, I don't know how you say his last name, of Florida. And then on the Senate side, it's Representative Mike Lee from Utah, who used to be one of the most conservative senators in Congress. And I've been questioning a lot of things from him lately. But then you have it at a state level too. So there are probably a dozen states now that have proposed policy for this. And it passed in 3 states, Texas, Louisiana, and Utah. Texas already has a federal lawsuit against this for being unconstitutional. And of course, the Digital Childhood Alliance is firing back at that, saying, big tech is really mad about this. Parents should be mad about this because this is not parental empowerment. This is a mandate from the government. And we should not be asking for the government to mandate things for us to parent our children. You should, as a parent, be doing your job. I know this might be hard to hear, but do your job and parent your kids. I get it. It's really hard during the digital age. I wish more than anything that we had not given our kids smartphones when we did. I wish we had waited till, okay, you're on your own. You can have a flip phone, a dumb phone until you're on your own, and you can go buy yourself an iPhone or whatever it is that you want. I wish we had done that, because it really, like, all of our children got into some kind of trouble on their iPhones, and no one is forcing parents to give their kids a smartphone or an iPad or any of these devices. No one is forcing you to allow your child to download these apps. I get that it's hard. I get that it's time consuming, but that's our job as parents. And we can't hand off our duty as parents to the government and ask the government to implement this digital ID so that your child is having to give up age verification data. You're having to give up age verification data, and then they're having to match you, the parent-child relationship. And I was on Todd Herman's show yesterday, and we talked about this. And one of the things he brought up is, so what if I set up this, I'm the parent of my child, but my wife, I'm not around, my wife wants to download. So any new person that comes into the mix will have to verify their age. They will have to verify their relationship to the child. Now, in a state like Washington, where they do a lot of policy for homeless youth, and part of the reason for that is because they encourage homeless youth. And so you've got these homeless youth, and you'd be surprised how many of them have iPhones. But how will they download apps if they don't have a parent relationship? Is it going to be someone that is running the homeless youth shelter? Is that person going to sign up, somehow be able to substantiate a relationship? What forms of ID would it be? And it's similar to with the GUARD Act, right? So it's going to be government issued or biometric data or whatever, commercially reasonable that they can find. So, and another thing with the apps is that a lot of these developers are overseas. They are not American developers. And so how are you going to enforce that with these agencies that are overseas? How, that they comply with this? And how are you going to enforce So you can't sell the data, but there's nothing in the bill to prohibit these guys from sharing the data. So there are a lot of problems with this. Plus, you are conditioning these kids to give up their data. That if I want access to something, I have to provide my ID credentials to these platforms. And I think that's a very slippery slope. I absolutely believe that these bills are a gateway to digital ID. I had hoped that Republicans would not be the ones that would be ushering this in, but yet here we are. I think there's a whole, you guys know there's a huge global movement for digital ID. We're not going to be able to escape it. It's coming. It's just when. And like I said, I just wish that it wasn't the Republicans who were the ones ushering it in. And I really find it insulting that they are pushing it as child protection and parental empowerment. This is parental rights. And these groups that are pushing it, shame on them. Honestly, if you're just running with the talking points from the Digital Childhood Alliance or wherever you're getting them, shame on you. You should read the bill and you should look at the fine print. You shouldn't just be running with whatever talking points some politician or some think tank or some organization gave you. Now, I mentioned at the beginning about Idaho Senator Brian Lenny's article about this that just went live before I went live. And so I told you guys I hadn't even had chance to read this. So let's read this article together. I will put, it's Jessica Reed Kraus, KRAUS.substack.com. And the article is by Senator Brian Lenny. How meta-funded mom groups teach parents they're too weak to raise their own kids. Why the organic push for App Store accountability isn't what it seems. And this is what when I found out about the Texas bill, because our friends at Grayson County Conservatives let me know about the Texas bill that passed. That one kind of passed under the radar. And that's when I started digging into it. And I'm like, where are all these op-eds from like Moms for Liberty and all these parent groups that are putting out op-eds all around the country? And this has been going on for several months and it's not organic. That's when I started digging and it's not organic. So Senator Lenny and I are on the same page here. Editor's note. Okay, this is interesting. I did scan this. Okay, so Senator Jay Morris, a conservative Republican from Louisiana, wasn't supposed to be the one to unravel Meta's multi-million-dollar astroturfing operation. But when Digital Childhood Alliance Executive Director Casey Stefanski sat before the Louisiana Senate Finance Committee in 2024, nervously defending her organization's push for App Store accountability laws, Morris pressed her with the simplest of inquiries. Are you funded by tech companies? Because that would seem the most obvious. What happened? Because this law benefits tech companies way more than it benefits the American citizens. What happened next was one of America's most sophisticated astroturf operations where corporate money creates the illusion of grassroots activism. Stefanski squirmed. She deflected. She said she didn't feel comfortable answering basic questions about her organization's alleged big tech backing when Morris pressed for a simple yes or no When Morris pressed for a simple yes or no answer about tech company funding, Stefanski finally admitted they do receive such support, but refused to name the companies. She asked about her organization structure. Stefanski revealed that they are organized as a 501c4, which is correct. That's what I found too. The designation that allows political advocacy without disclosing donors. We're a 501c4 as well. So if you want to donate, you can't, it's not tax deductible for you, but it does help us. So you're not going to tell us who's actually supporting it, Morris asked. No, Stefanski replied. The woman supposedly representing concerned parents across America either couldn't or wouldn't say which big tech companies were footing the bill. The awkward exchange that followed was the moment that exposed how Facebook's parent company had orchestrated a brilliant shell game to avoid responsibility for creating what researchers like Jonathan Haidt now call the anxious generation. Her evasion was just the beginning of a story that reaches into the highest levels of Silicon Valley, spans multiple states, and reveals how one of the world's most powerful corporations has weaponized parental anxiety to wage war against its competitors while children face unprecedented rates of depression, self-harm, and suicide. Even Google's own director of public policy recognized what was happening, saying that these bills would do nothing to address people's concerns. And in the process, they're letting Zuckerberg and Meta off the hook by providing this false sense of security that no amount of age verification at an app store level can really solve. Excuse me. That's what this thing is really about. The App Store Accountability Act is really letting these developers like Meta and Snapchat and TikTok and all that, lets them off the hook, and it puts it down at the App Store level. And when this is another important point about the App Store Accountability Act is that, okay, you give parental consent for your child to download Snapchat. It doesn't change anything inside the app. There's nothing, like, they can still get into the same dangers within the app. So you close the door, you've locked the door, but you left the windows wide open. And that's one of the biggest things that they're totally overselling this as like it's going to protect the kids, and it's not. So Melissa McKay is part of the Digital Childhood Alliance. She's on the board. Utah mom who isn't what she seems. 3 months before Stefanski's disastrous testimony, Melissa McKay was building her online presence as the concerned Utah mom leading so-called grassroots revolt against big tech. Her ex bio calls her a mom, child advocate, hashtag fix app ratings, hashtag app store accountability. All she does on X is post about the App Store Accountability Act. Her website features heartwarming photos of families gathered around dinner tables, urgent statistics about children's digital exposure, and emotional appeals to protect kids from Silicon Valley's harmful algorithms. She chairs the Digital Childhood Alliance, claiming to represent over 70 advocacy groups in a coalition pushing to hold Apple and Google accountable for the apps they deliver through their stores. She has testified in legislatures, both federal and state level. You can, if you search Melissa McKay, I've found her some YouTube interviews that she's done with some different conservative think tanks, and that was actually very interesting. If you watch it and you don't know what the bill is about, it sounds really good. But once you know what the bill is about, which you will because you've watched this video, it's going to sound like a crock of crap. When Bloomberg reporters began investigating the Digital Childhood Alliance's funding sources, they discovered what Casey Stefanski wouldn't admit under oath in Louisiana, that Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, was allegedly bankrolling this supposedly grassroots movement. Now, I can tell you, as someone who runs a grassroots organization with little to no money, it's very, very hard to do what they have managed to do in such a short time. Like, I feel like we are very effective and we're very impactful, but we don't have, we're not able to run paid ads. We're not able to do a lot of things that we would be able to do if we had more money. I'm okay with that because I'm not going to be accountable. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to I'm not going to be anyone's puppet, is what I mean. And I'm not going to have someone tell me what I have to say. These people, obviously, Meta being behind this, they are totally the puppet master of this whole operation. And that should really piss people off. They're ushering in digital ID through Republicans, through conservative organizations, through conservative parent groups. They're ushering in digital ID. All right, let's continue. Sorry, it makes me so mad. It makes me really mad to see conservatives supporting this. Stefanski only acknowledged that Meta supports the legislation the group is promoting, while insisting that they were working on this legislation prior to Meta even caring about it. But her refusal to admit whether or not Meta was funding this effort, despite confirming tech company support, seems to reveal the scope of the deception. The irony is staggering, isn't it? Yes, Senator Lenny, it is. Let's see. According to Bloomberg, Meta lobbied in support of the Utah and Louisiana laws. Remember, I said they passed it in Utah and Louisiana and Texas, putting the onus on Apple and Google for tracking their users' ages. Similar Meta backed proposals had been introduced in 20 states. Federal legislation proposed by Senator Mike Lee of Utah would hold the app stores accountable for verifying users' ages. If this isn't outsourcing parents to big tech, I don't know what is. Fully agree. Fully agree. And then he goes into, like I said, please go look this up. Jessica Reed, Reed, Kraus, Kraus at Substack. This is a fantastic article, and please share this far and wide because Senator Lenny is really getting into what's really behind this App Store Accountability Act. And my biggest fear with this, because there are so many trustworthy conservative organizations like the Heritage Foundation and like Moms for Liberty that are behind this, people trust them. And so they're not going to go read the bill and ask questions about the bill and highlight the bill. They're just going to take their word for it. And that's really concerning for me, because how do we stop this? If we have so many people on the right and everybody on the left thinks this is a great idea, it's very frustrating. This is the biggest frustration. One of the biggest frustrations I have in government is that everybody is just doing what the handlers tell them to do. So this is interesting. Sorry, I'm going through this as fresh with you guys, so I apologize for that. But this is really important, and I think it's good for us to go through it together. The state model that Meta fears. To understand why Meta's App Store accountability campaign represents such a cynical manipulation of parental concern, consider how Idaho lawmakers approached a similar child protection challenge in 2024. When addressing the problem of minors accessing pornography online, states like Idaho didn't target internet service providers, app stores, or payment processors. They went straight to the source of the harm, which is what I said earlier. So this map shows you where they have adult content age verification laws. So the teal, if you guys can't see that, the teal, the green is there's no law. The orange is that there has been a law enacted. And then the yellow is passed, but is not yet in effect. So like looking there at Ohio, let's say they probably passed it this year and it's going to take effect on January 1. Idaho's age verification law, H498, placed responsibility exactly where it belonged on the pornography sites that profit from explicit content. Pornhub and similar platforms must now verify users' age to prevent minors from accessing harmful material or face penalties. This law carried such significant weight that it prompted Pornhub to geoblock Idaho and other states with similar age verification laws. As a result, when you visit Pornhub from an Idaho IP address, you will see this restricted message. So this is just a screenshot. I can't play the video. Let's see. Looks like basically he's okay, let's go through this, how he's laid it out. Here's how it works. Step 1, Meta identifies politically favorable states with tech skeptic sentiment. Most of the states that the App Store Accountability Act is proposed in are Republican majority or purple states. Of course, we know that the three that they passed in there, Louisiana, Texas, Utah, are all Republican majority states. They deploy third-party groups like the Digital Childhood Alliance, Foundation for American Innovation, the Digital Progress Institute to testify in targeted state houses. Step 3, according to Politico, they enlisted firms like DCI Group, a Republican firm known for its astroturfing tactics, and Hilltop Public Strategies, a campaign management firm that often works with Democrats to coordinate messaging and grassroots campaigns nationwide. Step 4, they equip bill sponsors with talking points lifted directly from Meta's internal documents. These are all these are hyperlinked as well. So highly recommend you guys go check this out. I'll link it in the comments as well. Step 5, they target Apple and Google's as obstacles to parental rights, while Meta benefits from the regulatory burden being shifted to competitors. Understanding Meta's strategy requires seeing through their carefully crafted messaging to the underlying business interested. These same phrases appear in the testimony across different states when lawmakers supporting Texas Senate Bill 2420, which, remember, I said that there's already a federal lawsuit that looks like it's going to be pretty successful. That bill uses language that mirrors Meta's internal documents nearly word for word. That's no coincidence. One note on Texas SB 2420, there was only one Republican who voted no on that bill. That was Representative Brian Harrison in Texas. And so, we always think of these red states as being the conservative stronghold. Texas and Florida both had pretty bad legislative sessions. They had huge rhino problems in Florida and Texas. So this is why it's really critical for citizens to be alert and educated about these things so that we can speak up. Any citizen can testify on legislation. You don't have to be a lobbyist. You don't have to be with some kind of organization. You can go and testify. You just have to go find out when the hearing is had. And if you have questions about that, our team would love to help you. So please reach out to us, info@conservativeladiesofamerica.com. Also telling, Senator Mike Lee's reversal from opposing App Store control to now mandating it tells you everything you need to know about whose interests are really being served. Of course, it's Mike Lee. It's always Mike Lee's. When Louisiana deployed 12 Meta lobbyists for a single bill while publicly claiming they aren't the driving force, you realize the scale of resources being thrown at state legislatures. It's incredible, you guys. And like I said earlier in this live stream, when I got into Washington State Legislature in the 2022 session, I really had no idea. I was so naive. I really thought the Republicans were the good guys. And then to watch them working with Democrats. And in Washington, it's like you're in such a minority as Republicans in Washington State. Just hold the line. Vote no on everything. But there's lobbyists and there's a lot of shenanigans that go on. I don't think we need to go through all this. He talks about breaking the cycle. There's Senator Lenny. I bet he would be a cool guy to hang out with. The Digital Childhood Alliance wants parents to believe they're powerless against big tech, that only government regulation can protect children from corporate algorithms designed to exploit psychological vulnerabilities. This narrative serves Meta perfectly, while parents demand the App Store solve problems they could address through basic supervision and boundary setting. Yes, guys. Meta continues operating the algorithms that actually harm children without taking responsibility for the content they serve or the engagement patterns they create. Make no mistake, this is not authentic parent advocacy. And if you look at a group like Moms for Liberty, they came on board online the same time Conservative Ladies did in 2021. And the amount, I was like, how are they doing all these things that they're doing? And then you realize how much funding they're getting, and that the grassroots isn't actually authentic. Because if it's authentic grassroots, like we are, and like conservatives of the Grayson County conservatives, when you're actually grassroots, you're scrappy. There's a lot of things you don't do. You don't have, hundreds of thousands of dollar events going on and paying for all your people around the country to attend events that bring the senator and the presidential candidate. So kind of going all the way back, I know we've got a bunch of people that have joined the live stream that weren't here at the very beginning, but really use discernment when you are with resources and influencers and all these voices that are trying to speak and influence us. A lot of it is distraction and a lot of it is for their own agenda. But this is, I'm going to drop this link into the chat because it's really important that you guys go read this and share it and follow Senator Lenny on, I follow him on X. I don't think he's on Facebook. I don't really do Facebook all that much. But this is why this bill, these two bills, the GUARD Act and the App Store Accountability Act, are perfect examples of why it's critical for citizens to be engaged and for citizens to be searching the information for themselves, reading the bills for themselves. And anytime we put out a Substack or a blog, we always link to the sources. So like the blog that I put out on the GUARD Act and the App Store Accountability Act have tons of links right to the original bills so that you can go read that text for yourself. you don't have to have any special background. I mean, I'd never read a piece of, I was talking to Todd Herman's wife earlier today about this, because Todd was one of the first people that, well, when everything happened to us in Washington, he was still at KTTH radio, and he reached out to me and said, would you be willing to come on and tell everybody what happened? And we did a series of interviews. We became friends through it all. And it was after that, right after that, that I connected with former Representative Brad Clippert in Washington State. And that's when I got involved in legislation and reading bills. And then a little over a year ago, I dropped out of college in the mid-90s when I got pregnant with my daughter and never finished. And I thought, why couldn't I? Like, now they have this online school stuff. And so anyway, so then a little over a year ago, I enrolled in Liberty University online. I am a government and public policy major. I have a 4.0, which makes me happy because, the Republicans in Washington would always say, oh, Julie Barrett doesn't know how to read bills. She just doesn't understand the bills. And so it's very affirming to me that actually I do know how to read the bills. And those are tactics that they will use when they want people to shut up. They want you to think you don't know what you're talking about. They want you to think that that they are somehow smarter than you. But you know what? Candidates and people who get elected as lawmakers, they don't have to have any special education in public policy. They don't have to know the Constitution. They don't even have to have a civics education. They just have to get elected. And that's part of the problem, is that we have a lot of people making laws that really don't know what they're doing. And they're being influenced by lobbyists and these think tanks. And from what I hear, the staffers do all the work for the most part anyway. And so I hope that encourages you. Please get involved. We can't let Republicans or Democrats issue in more bad policies. And the GUARD Act and the App Store Accountability Act are a gateway to digital ID. They are not protecting children. They are not empowering parents. They are government mandates, and we cannot outsource our parental duty to our children to the government. That goes along with public school too, but that's for another day. So I hope you guys will go dig into these even more, or share them, share this video. I know we dug into a lot of stuff today, and I hope it was good information for you. Again, please share it far and wide. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I plan to be back next Thursday. I'll probably do the early time, which is 11 a.m. for you guys on the West Coast, and 2 p.m. Eastern, because I will be out of town for the weekend. So I want to get it done early. So meet me back here next week, 2 p.m. Eastern. Have a great weekend, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for joining.